What kind of sage laughs while a hero beats him bloody in a stable? And what kind of demon king begs that same broken man to save her people? Ren was not a knight, a noble, or a chosen child loved by fate. He was a mud-covered drifter sleeping in hay because stone bridges were colder. When cold water slammed into his face, he thought another landlord had found him. Instead, golden armor flashed before his eyes like sunlight sharpened into arrogance. The man standing there called himself Gareth Hero, chosen by the gods. Behind him waited Iris, a nervous young mage clutching her staff too tightly. Gareth raised a glowing book and declared that Ren was the sage of destiny. The hero wanted him to join the holy journey against the Demon King. Ren almost laughed hard enough to choke on the stable dust, because once long ago he had wanted to save this world too. He had come from another world with memories this kingdom could never understand. He knew tools, machines, water systems, crop methods, and practical human wisdom. So he tried to help farmers grow more food with simple devices. He tried to make daily life easier for people crushed by nobles and priests, but kindness became heresy the moment it threatened the people in power. The church condemned his ideas as blasphemy against the goddess. The nobles destroyed his work because progress made commoners less obedient. They burned his inventions, dragged his name through mud, and nearly burned him alive. Ren survived that nightmare with scars hidden deeper than his skin. After that, he stopped dreaming about saving anyone. Bread mattered more than justice, and shelter mattered more than prophecy. So when Gareth demanded loyalty, Ren only saw a polished fool. A fool with clean armor, a clean sword, and a soul untouched by hunger. Ren refused, then tapped the hero's shoulder like he was dismissing a child. Gareth slapped the hand away as if filth had crawled onto him. That single gesture told Ren everything about the so-called chosen hero. So Ren smiled through his cracked lips and insulted the goddess who picked him. He said the goddess must be blind to choose someone so empty. The hero's perfect mask shattered in an instant. His fist crashed into Ren's face and sent him against a wooden post. Blood filled Ren's mouth, warm and metallic, but fear never arrived. He had already been burned, betrayed, and abandoned by this beautiful, holy world. So why should one spoiled hero scare him now? Ren cursed the goddess again and threw himself forward like a cornered dog. His dirty fist landed square on Gareth's proud nose. The punch barely hurt the hero, but the mud on Ren's hand did. Gareth lost control, hammering Ren down with fists and boots. Ren curled up ribs, screaming hay sticking to blood on his cheek. But he kept laughing at the hero, the prophecy, and the whole rotten world. That laughter bothered Gareth more than pain could ever bother Ren. Iris finally grabbed Gareth's arm and begged him to stop. The hero spat that the book must be wrong. No sage could be this filthy, this mad, this worthless. Then Gareth stormed away, taking his golden light with him. Iris lingered just long enough to place a potion beside Ren. Her apology was soft, frightened, and almost swallowed by the stable shadows. Then she ran after the hero who had almost murdered a starving man. Ren lay in the hay, breathing through pain and bitter amusement. He did not drink the potion because survival had taught him better. Healing was nice, but bread could keep him alive longer. He planned to trade it for black loaves and stew from Old Tom. With that practical dream, he closed his swollen eyes. But morning did not bring sunlight across his face. Instead, the stable smelled of perfume, sharp and expensive among manure. Perfume in a stable meant trouble with legs. Ren slowed his breathing and pretended to sleep like a corpse. A dramatic woman's voice threatened to call the stable owner. That threat worked faster than a blade at his throat. Ren sat up with both hands raised, ready to bargain for his sleeping spot. Before him stood Cecilia of the Nightshade, assassin of the demon army. Tall, elegant, leather-clad, and smiling like danger had learned manners. She asked if he was truly the sage. Ren buried his face back in hay and told her the sage had gone elsewhere. Cecilia only laughed because assassins rarely came without certainty. She offered him fear, then riches, then power, then servants. Ren rejected every bait with the tired logic of a man who owned nothing. Wealth was useless if he lacked strength to protect it. Power meant paperwork, blame, and enemies lining up at his door. Servants sounded exhausting when he could barely stand without wobbling. The more he refused, the more Cecilia's eyes gleamed with curiosity. Ren recognized that look and immediately disliked it. He warned her not to come closer because he had not bathed in days. Her fist answered before her mouth could. Darkness swallowed Ren along with his plan to do absolutely nothing. When he woke, cold stone pressed against his bruised body. He was inside a vast black hall that looked less like a castle and more like an unfinished warehouse built by someone allergic to decoration. Cecilia leaned nearby with the same infuriating smile. Before Ren could curse her, a silver-haired man appeared inches from his nose. The man called him Honored Sage with an amusement that felt like a trap. Ren guessed he was the Demon King, but the man only told him to guess again. Ren did not care about titles while his body was still aching. If demons had dragged him here, then he had value. So he lay back on this floor and demanded a bed, a bath, meat and ale. Miss any of those, he warned, and the sacred book would find another pawn. The silver-haired man did not flinch, which annoyed Ren immediately. Instead, he questioned why the artifact had chosen a powerless vagrant. No magic, no battle energy, no school record, no church blessing. Then the man called Ren's inventions powerless junk. That insult cut deeper than Gareth's fists ever had. Ren could endure being called trash, heretic, coward, or beggar, but he would not let anyone spit on the wisdom of generations. Those machines were not mere toys from his memory. They were the bones of civilization built by countless ordinary hands. Ren lunged at the silver-haired demon with all his anger. No spells erupted. No holy light fell and no demon aura crushed him. The man simply rolled up his sleeves and fought him with bare fists. They crashed across the stone like street dogs fighting over scraps. The demon taunted him, asking why his inventions failed to save themselves. The words dragged every old wound open at once. Ren grabbed his collar, blood running from his mouth. He swore that one day he would use that so-called trash to bring down arrogant superhumans, corrupt churches, and even the blind god above. The hall went silent after that vow. Then the silver-haired man smiled with complete satisfaction. He introduced himself as Mephist, Lord of all realms. The brawl, the insults, and the provocation had all been an interview. Ren had been hired because his pride still burned under the dirt. He hated being played, but he hated the church even more. After everything humanity had done to him, loyalty to humans meant nothing. The Holy War looked noble only to those who never starved beneath it. Common people bled whether gods or demons claimed victory, so Ren shook Mephist's hand and accepted the demon side. Cecilia vanished into shadow, calling him a little madman as she left. Ren finally remembered the potion hidden under his torn shirt. This time he drank it because the day had become far too long. The pain faded and Mephist led him toward the dining hall. Ren expected bones, wine, roaring monsters, and tables piled with meat. Instead, demons sat quietly over wooden bowls of gray soup. Their great castle smelled less like evil and more like poverty. Mephist explained that meat was a luxury in the demon realm. The land was rich in wild magic, but that power poisoned the soil. Seeds burned crops, twisted, and roots became dangerous things. The same magic that strengthened demons had stolen their harvests. Ren forced down the tasteless soup because hunger still ruled his body. Then he looked outside and saw a little demon girl digging in cracked red earth. She found a twisted root and tried to eat it. An older boy slapped it away before poison could reach her mouth. The girl cried with the sound of a stomach that had known too many empty nights. Ren's spoon stopped halfway to his lips. That cry did what sermons, heroes, and prophecies had failed to do. It reached the place in him that still remembered caring. A soft voice then asked him not to waste food. Ren turned and saw a small white-haired girl in a patched black robe. Black spiral horns curled from her head and a plain tray rested in her hands. Mephist bowed deeply and greeted her as the Demon King. Ren stared as if the world had dropped another joke into his lap. This quiet child was Ashley Terror of human bedtime stories. She was not a throne of bones, not a monster drenched in fire. She was a ruler eating the same poor soup as her starving people. After Mephist left to handle merchants raising salt prices by 30%, Ashley asked Ren what he saw through the window. He answered that the land was barren. She corrected him gently and said there was suffering too. Then the truth of the Holy War unfolded before him. Beneath the demon soil lay the continent's richest vein of magic crystals. Humans used those crystals as money fuel and proof of status. Demons born with magic in their blood could not eat shining rocks. So humans hid greed behind religion and called their blockade a crusade. They feared direct battle, so they let hunger do the killing. Light against darkness was only a costume for a resource theft. Ren asked why demons did not seize better land. Ashley answered that this wasteland was their home. Their ancestors had been born here, fought here, and slept beneath this soil. That word struck Ren harder than he expected. Home was something he had lost twice. Outside, the demon soil hummed under his feet like a wounded beast. Ren crouched, rubbed dark red earth between his fingers, and smelled black richness. The land should have been fertile, yet wild. Magic had ruined it. Near the place where the girl had been digging, he found the forbidden root. It was small, knotted, ugly, and stained purple-green. Ashley called it a cursed, poisonous plant that caused vomiting and throat spasms. Ren's heart began to race because he recognized the shape. It was not a curse. It was a wild potato. Back on Earth, wild potatoes had once been poisonous too. Human patience had turned bitter danger into daily food over thousands of years. This world had never learned that lesson. Ren knew methods to draw out the poison. Suddenly, the ugly root in his palm looked like a rebellion. He told Ashley that he might have found a way to solve hunger. The Demon King agreed before he even finished explaining. For her, any chance was worth trying. Ren asked for Ash clean water, heat, and patience. Ashley burned dry grass into powder with blue flame in seconds. She mixed the ash into water while still looking doubtful. Ren had her boil cool and filter it until clear amber liquid remained. It was lye water, simple alkali born from ash. Under alkaline boiling, the potato's poison could be broken down. Ashley sliced the root thin with invisible wind blades. The pieces dropped into the hot liquid like coins into fate. Ren told her it needed time, but Ashley tasted early anyway. He nearly shouted, but she only chewed with calm, royal stubbornness. Bitter, undercooked, but no cramps, no burning, no pain. The poison had nearly vanished. That meant the hillsides were no longer covered in cursed weeds. They were covered in food, waiting for knowledge to unlock it. Ashley stepped back, bowed her head, and thanked him. Then she offered her hand and gave him her real name. Ren understood that the name Ashley was not a small gift. He straightened, dropped the lazy mask, and took her hand with respect. For the first time since arriving in this world, he introduced himself properly. That night, Ren cooked for the demon leadership. Potato cakes with minced beast meat became the first taste of change. Around the long table sat Ashley, Mephist, Cecilia Baru, and other demon lords. 9 monstrous powers watched a powerless human sit among them. No one laughed because tomorrow's war shadow already covered the room. Ashley ordered civilians, elders, children, and the sick to move north. The demon lords accepted the command like soldiers accepting death. Ren slammed his cup down, unable to swallow their surrender. They could crush stone, yet they were already retreating inside their own hearts. Ashley explained why hope had become dangerous to them. Every race had gods, sacred weapons, miracles, and ancient blessings. Demons had none of that, only strength and endless targets on their backs. For thousands of years, heroes had crushed them whenever they rose. Ren realized this was not a fair war. It was a rigged game designed by heaven itself. Then Baru laughed, huge and warm, breaking the despair. He pointed at Ren and reminded them that no god had fed demon children. Yet this dirty human had turned poison into food in a single day. Every demon lord looked at Ren differently after that. Ren lifted a golden potato in the candlelight. For the first time, victory no longer felt impossible. After the banquet, Ren entered the grand library. He did not search for forbidden spells or glorious battle magic. He hunted for ignored notes, boring theories, and abandoned scraps of knowledge. Airflow friction, cheap ore, water slimes, low-level heat circles. To this world, those books were useless. To Ren, they were the foundation stones of an industrial revolution. He knew his mortal hands could not defeat gods with steel he could not forge. So he would combine Earth's logic with this world's magic. Cecilia appeared from the shadows and found him buried under dusty volumes. She asked why a man without magic studied spell theory at all. Ren explained that everyone used magic like a hammer. Fireballs to burn walls, floods to drown armies, lightning to scare enemies. Powerful, yes, but wasteful and crude. What if magic created steady heat instead? What if steam moved through pipes and pushed machines? What if forgotten rules became engines stronger than beasts? Cecilia looked at him as if he had invented a new kind of madness. Ren only smiled and returned to reading. Meanwhile, news from Gareth made the demon castle laugh bitterly. The hero had stolen a poor town's last cattle for his meals. He had split a street with battle energy and called it justice. When Iris mentioned Ren, Gareth snapped and ordered her silence. He planned to purify the sacred book so it would find a proper sage. Ren found the idea hilarious. The noble hero wanted righteousness while leaving hunger and broken roads behind him. By dawn, Ren's eyes were red, but a new plan covered his desk. Potatoes were a beginning, not a civilization. He needed crops that could grow safely in demon soil. So he designed a dome-shaped greenhouse with a suppression array underneath. Inside the dome, wild magic would be stripped away. Clean air, clean soil, and ordinary plants could finally survive. Mephist liked the idea, then immediately saw the flaw. An array running for months would devour enormous power. Demons would have to stand in the fields like living batteries. Ren smiled because Mephist was still thinking like a mage. He opened a book on fortress defense arrays powered by embedded cores. Swap the attack function for suppression, then feed it magic crystals. The demon realm was rich with crystals, no demon valued. Those so-called useless rocks could run greenhouses without draining warriors. Mephist worried even the largest vein would eventually empty. Ren had already found the answer in a rejected study by a poor mage named Elk. Elk had invented a formation that condensed scattered magic from the air. In human lands, the air held too little magic, so scholars dismissed it. In the demon realm, the air was thick enough to mutate roots. Gathering formations would create crystals from leaking wild magic. Crystals would power the greenhouses, and greenhouses would grow food. The curse would become a cycle. Magic to crystals. Crystals to clean soil. Clean soil to harvests. Mephist stared as if his understanding of reality had cracked open. He dragged Ren through the castle toward Ashley's chambers. Then, with suspicious innocence, he made Ren open the door first. Ashley was on her bed in loose white pajamas, hair damp from a bath. Ren froze for one heartbeat, then another. Then he slammed the door shut and glared at Mephist. The demon lord pretended the ceiling had become fascinating. Ashley soon emerged in black robes with a face colder than iron. Ren shoved the blueprint forward before she could throw anyone into a river. Her anger melted into surprise, then into something bright and dangerous. Excitement. She dragged Ren outside and built the first greenhouse in minutes. Formation lines burned beneath her fingers, stone rose, and a transparent dome formed. Ren watched the structure appear like a machine from a dream. Magic was a three-dimensional printer with a queen's temper attached. Inside the dome, Ashley planted a berry seed in clean soil. Her life magic pushed a sprout upward, then leaves branches and flowers. In half a minute, a healthy bush stood where poison should have been. Ren blurted that she had this power and still starved. Mephist explained that life magic could hasten growth but not fix cursed ground. On demon soil, it only made plants mutate faster. Inside Ren's greenhouse, magic finally had a safe stage. Ashley's ruler face returned in full force. She ordered blueprints, copied defenses delayed, and greenhouses built everywhere. The greedy merchants could raise prices for now. Once the first harvest arrived, they would repay everything with interest. Then Ashley bowed to Ren and thanked him for the demon race. She led him to a clean upper room that overlooked the wasteland. It had belonged to Caesar, the previous demon king. Since Caesar's sacrifice, no one had opened it. After Ashley left, Ren found handmade toys, stone necklaces, and dried flowers. They were worthless as objects and priceless as memories. Then he found Caesar's diary. The first pages burned with promises to make demons happy. Later pages sagged under blocked trade, rising prices, and soldiers dying for meat. Caesar could not understand why gods healed human wounds but ignored demon screams. Children's drawings covered the walls around his old bed. Those little gifts had kept him from surrendering to the church. The final page trembled with old tear stains. Caesar apologized for failing to bring his people a future. Ren sat with that diary, pressing invisible weight against his chest. He placed the children's gifts neatly on the table like sacred relics. Then he slept with his head on his arms. In his dream, no one starved. A golden wheat field swayed under clean wind. When he woke at sunset, Ren put Caesar's treasures back with care. He carried the diary against his chest and looked over the demon lands. Then his stomach roared loud enough to ruin the solemn moment. In the kitchen, someone had left a warm plate for him. Burned steak badly, cut potatoes, and unsalted soup waited under a lid. It was terrible cooking. Ren ate every bite because effort had a taste too. Afterward, he found shriveled green beans in storage. Fast-growing, drought-resistant, and useful for restoring soil. He took a handful and ran to the greenhouse. Dirt covered his hands as he planted seed after seed. Ashley entered and found him grinning in the mud. Ren casually asked her to water the beans and remove a berry bush. Then remembered only the Demon King could safely use magic inside the dome. Ashley sighed, but gentle rain fell over his little field. She had come with news that the Aryan merchants refused fair prices. Their representative would arrive soon, certain the blockade gave them leverage. Ren asked for intelligence on their money, goods leaders, and weaknesses. Cecilia was already gathering it through shadows. Ren handed Ashley Caesar's diary before the meeting. He told her to take Caesar's frustration and collect what demons had lost, plus interest. That night, Ren studied plant breeding beside merchant reports. He explained genetics to Cecilia using humans, elves, and half-elves. If children could inherit traits, why not wheat? The idea struck Cecilia so hard she dropped her scroll. Ren told her to remember the word genetics. The next morning, Ashley gave him a dark mask. A powerless human advisor was too dangerous for merchants to recognize. At the meeting, Nick entered with fox ears, a careful smile, and doomed eyes. He was the youngest son sent as a scapegoat to absorb demon anger. Ashley rejected the price hike with the calm fury Caesar's diary had awakened. Nick answered smoothly, with harvest failures, monster attacks, and rising costs. Ren planned to crush him with intelligence. Then he noticed something familiar in the young fox's gaze. Talent buried under family contempt. A useful mind treated like waste. Ren changed his plan in an instant. Why defeat the caravan when he could swallow it from inside? So he applauded Nick's argument and called the price hike reasonable. The hall froze and Ashley kicked him under the table. Ren grabbed her ankle to stop the second strike. Nick was stunned because he had expected punishment, not praise. Ren invited him to lunch under the banner of happy cooperation. The trap was set before the fox even smelled it. When Nick left the room, Ashley demanded an explanation with silent fury. Ren said the fox was not an enemy to crush. He was a blade the merchants had thrown away because they could not see its edge. Support him and he would fight his own family for control. Then the demons would own a trading caravan instead of begging from one. Ashley feared betrayal because merchants sold loyalty by habit. Ren took her hand and asked her to trust him. She did. So Ren went to the kitchen and cooked monster ham with rare care. At lunch, Nick tasted the dish and his fox ears twitched. Ren spoke about food, but both men heard ambition underneath. Better ingredients deserved a better chef. A true chef could transform simple materials into continent-shaking flavor. Nick answered that he knew such a chef ignored by fools above him. Ren laughed because the code had been understood perfectly. By the end of the meal, Nick had eaten like a starving man. He had swallowed not only meat, but years of humiliation. Ren asked if that chef would serve as royal cook for the demon realm. Nick said it would be the honor of his life. Then both of them laughed like conspirators over a plate of grease. Ren showed Nick the grand library next. Thousands of magic books rose in towers under floating lights. In human lands, one damaged spell scroll could cost a fortune. Here knowledge slept on shelves like dust. Ren handed Nick a book on monster habits and taming arrays. It could change caravan transport forever. Nick's hands trembled with greed and realization. Then Ren brought him to the greenhouse. Normal plants were growing in demon soil. The merchant understood that his father's leverage was dying. Outside, gathering formations condensed wild magic into low-grade crystals. Ren offered endless cheap crystals in exchange for seeds, cold-resistant wheat, high-yield rice, drought-tolerant vegetables. Everything useful. Nick agreed, then surprised Ren with another idea. If greenhouses produced feed and the library held taming knowledge, why not raise monsters for meat training, armor, and trade? Ren realized the fox was even sharper than expected. Nick left with a secret pact and a public lie about the price increase. Ashley appeared in work clothes, sleeves rolled, hair tied back. She had to mine crystals herself now because Ren's plans ate resources fast. Before she left, Ren asked about creatures that ate little and multiplied quickly. She told him to ask Baru, the giant-bellied demon lord. Ren began researching livestock candidates until night swallowed the library. Flame pigs, burned farms, rock, armored cattle grew too slowly. Acid rabbits sounded like punishment for whoever cleaned the pens. Cecilia appeared and found him shivering under the winter wind. She draped a warm beast wool blanket over his shoulders. Her teasing carried concern she did not bother hiding well. Then she reported Gareth's latest misery near the elven lands. The hero sought his next destined teammate, an elf archer. But elves were proud, sensitive, and unimpressed by shiny arrogance. Iris was suffering most, forced to cook and camp while Gareth protected his image. Ren asked why they did not assassinate Gareth before he grew stronger. Cecilia explained the cruel law of the world. Before the final duel, the goddess protected the hero through absurd miracles. Poison-failed blades, mist barriers appeared, and space twisted him away. Villains could slow the hero but not end him. Ren muttered that the gods had given Gareth plot armor with divine paperwork. Then he asked Cecilia to take him to Baru. They crossed through shadow and landed in a bright valley festival. Bonfires burned against winter and demon children laughed around the flames. Baru sat among them like a mountain-sized grandfather, handing out rough candies. The candy came from Sweetbark, made possible by new food security. Children who had feared hunger now danced with sticky hands and full bellies. Ren watched them and something inside him softened. He had hidden behind greed and cynicism for so long. Yet these small smiles made him feel richer than any noble. Baru pulled Ren into the light and announced him as the sage who broke hunger. Adults thanked him stiffly, still wary of a human face. Ren understood that ancient fear would not vanish with one miracle. Trust needed harvests, not speeches. The children had no such hesitation. They surrounded him with stones, grass toys, and half-melted candy. To them, the man who gave food was already family. Baru told them the best gift was to play tag with the sage. Ren rolled up his sleeves and charged at the children with mock ferocity. The valley exploded into laughter. Cecilia watched from the shadows, surprised by the fool beneath the genius. Baru said the secret was keeping a child's heart. Even Cecilia smiled and stepped into the rough dance circle. That night became Ren's first peaceful sleep in this world. Morning brought a little horned girl with a straight stick as a gift. She said it was her greatest treasure companion through dark nights. Ren accepted it with both hands like a sacred sword. No man, he thought, could resist a perfect branch. He swung it through the air, making childish sword sounds. Cecilia watched with a strange jealousy she did not understand. Baru then led Ren through the valley's new greenhouses. Demons chanted together, splitting growth magic into simple shared steps. They collapsed from exhaustion, yet smiled when sprouts broke the soil. Children carried water and picked stones from the beds. Hope had turned the entire territory into a living workshop. Ren finally asked about tameable monsters for meat and materials. Baru named the magic ant beast. Its eggs were nutritious larvae, spun strong silk. Adults had armor-like shells. Its meat could be roasted if one trusted Baru's appetite. The problem was the queen. Without controlling her, the swarm would attack anything nearby. But Baru and Cecilia treated impossible danger like an errand. They brought Ren to a barren plain before a small mountain. Only then did he realize the mountain was the ant nest. Millions of insects had built a fortress out of earth, stone, and secretion. Ren thought about tunnels, ventilation, food, supply, and defensive depth. Then a soldier, ant the size of a teenager, emerged from the shadows. It looked like a nightmare from a science fiction battlefield. But it did not attack. Instead, it clicked and pulsed with careful rhythm. Baru answered in the insect language because his gluttony talent was absurd. Ren learned that the queen feared the demon lords and invited them inside. That was not how he expected a dungeon raid to begin. The nest opened before them with astonishing order. Worker ants cleared paths in seconds like living machines. Blue-bellied insects lit tunnels one after another. They passed fungus farms fed by low-grade magic crystals. They passed nurseries weaving chambers and silk-lined corridors. The swarm was not mindless. It was a society without books. At the queen's chamber, white silk formed a warm, clean sanctuary. The queen's jade-like shell shimmered with age and intelligence. She asked why the magic race had come. Ren stepped forward and offered cooperation instead of conquest. Crop waste for food, ant silk, for fabric eggs, for nutrition, shells for armor. The queen accepted the mutual benefit. Then she revealed the sadness behind her civilization. She had evolved speech, thought, command, and long life. But insect wisdom could not be inherited. When she died, the hive would lose language and return to instinct. Her people possessed infinite potential, but no memory that survived the body. She gave Ren a white egg, glowing with faint gold. Inside it beat the future queen. She asked the demons to carry her child toward a place she could never reach. Ren accepted the egg with solemn hands. He promised that knowledge in their race would continue. Before leaving, he bowed to the sleeping queen. For once, he understood that progress was also an act of remembrance. At the city gates, Ashley waited with terrifying calm. Ren had vanished for a day and a night without telling her. Cecilia tried to escape by claiming urgent intelligence work. Ashley stopped her with a single cold command. Then she turned that exhausted anger on Ren. Ren raised the insect egg like a shield and explained the factories it would enable: textiles, light armor, protein supply, and a new alliance underground. Ashley listened, but her expression did not soften. She ordered Ren never to disappear without her again. He saw the tired dust on her face and agreed at once. Then Ashley swayed and collapsed into his arms. She was asleep before he could even call her name. The smell of saltpeter and crystal dust clung to her hair. She had mined all day, then waited in the cold for his return. Ren carried her carefully, thinking she was a foolish boss. So foolish it almost hurt. A few days later, the library held a cradle beside Ren's desk. Inside rested the glowing ant egg beneath soft animal hide. Ren ate real stew now. Potatoes, monster meat, and fresh green beans. The city had begun to breathe again. Common demons could eat 2 full meals in a day. That simple fact changed footsteps, voices, and even the light in the streets. Mephist arrived with the sealed letter from Nick. The Fox had already built a secret ghost trading team. He recruited old merchants, injured guards, and discarded veterans from the caravan. People his father saw as useless became Nick's hidden backbone. Ren smiled because talent often hid in the trash pile of arrogant families. Nick's letter asked about winter goods for the human market. Cold weather was coming and warmth meant profit. Ren looked at the ant egg and remembered the queen's silk chamber. The air there had been warmer than outside. Magic ant silk was strong, hollow, breathable, and excellent at holding heat. Mephist confirmed that emperors had once sacrificed knights to steal small amounts. Only lunatics dreamed of using it for ordinary clothes. Ren laughed because scarcity was the only thing making it luxury. Now the demons had millions of willing silk producers. Feed them crop waste and they could spit out wealth. Ren ordered Baru to send fresh silk at once. Then he began drawing machines from memory. Spinning wheels, flying shuttles, gears, rails, pedals, and wooden frames. The problem was that Ren knew concepts better than precise engineering. Every time he drew a mechanism, another flaw appeared. A spindle jammed in his imagination. A gear tooth struck wrong. A shaft bent where stress would gather. Crumpled sheepskin piled around him like pale fallen leaves. Dinner came and went without him noticing. In the dining hall, Ashley realized his seat was empty. She carried his meal to the library herself. When she entered, paper covered the floor like a failed snowstorm. She teased that the demon treasury might run out of sheepskin before winter. Ren promised that paper making would be easy once the machine problem was solved. Ashley placed the tray before him and reminded him that hungry minds stumble. His stomach betrayed him instantly. While he ate, she studied the strange diagrams. Ren explained that the machine would turn silk into warm cloth fast enough for a nation, but flat drawings hid the mistakes he needed to see. Ashley offered a simple solution. If the drawing was unclear, build the thing and watch where it failed. Ren stared, then slapped his forehead. The Demon King had just solved his engineering crisis with common sense. The library became a workshop before midnight. Ren called measurements and Ashley shaped wood with magic. Shafts appeared from air gears, formed under wind blades, frames adjusted instantly. When something stuck, they changed the size. When the shuttle snagged, they carved a smoother track. When tension failed, they rebuilt the support. Trial, error, magic, and stubbornness moved faster than calculation. By midnight, two impossible machines stood in the library. A spinning machine and a flying shuttle loom born from Earth memory and demon magic. Ren looked at Ashley in the candlelight and made a quiet promise. Soon he would give her a gift unique on the entire continent. Ashley took his empty plate and said she was looking forward to it. By morning, Ren copied the final machine measurements onto clean parchment. Main shaft length, shuttle angle gear, spacing and pedal motion. With standardized plans, craftsmen could build dozens more. A textile factory was no longer an idea. It was a supply chain waiting for orders. Mephist arrived with sacks of fresh white ant silk. The raw material glowed softly in the library light. Ren handed him the blueprints and demanded 50 identical machines in half a month. He ordered an open space prepared outside the city. The first textile factory in the demon realm would rise there. Then Ren wrote to Nick through Cecilia's shadow network. Human nobles alone could not absorb future production. The elf market wanted beauty, elegance, and rare luxury. The dwarf tribes needed warmth and held gold ore and pride. Nick must turn demon fabric into desire across every race. Cecilia delivered the letter to Nick in a border town at night. She pressed a shadow blade to his throat as a test. Nick trembled, but his merchant smile survived. A dead fox? He said carefully, could not make the demons a single coin. Cecilia withdrew the blade satisfied despite herself. Nick read Ren's plan and nearly shook with excitement. The demons were not chasing a market. They were preparing to swallow the continent's winter. He wrote back with a sharper idea. Pure silk would become limited treasures for elven royalty. Blended fabric, cheaper, but still warmer than ordinary cloth, would flood human armies and civilians. Waste silk, spider silk, linen, cotton, and ant fiber would create tiers of profit. High luxury for pride. Mass warmth for survival. Nick also revealed that his father's caravan would soon enter demon territory. 30 carts of poor grain would travel with the men who had exploited the demons. Nick marked Root's guards and weaknesses. His father and brothers would remain in the demon realm forever. Control of the caravan would pass to him. Cecilia called him a born merchant and a complete villain. Nick touched the blood on his neck and corrected her in the empty room. He was the demon race's most loyal hound. Outside the demon capital, Morton's skeleton soldiers began moving stone, clay, and timber. The undead did not sleep, eat, or complain. They became tireless carriers across the Red Plain. A flat, ugly building rose where only dust had been. It was not pretty, but factories did not need beauty to change history. Across the territories, blacksmiths and carpenters cursed the new blueprints. They were used to swords, armor, axes, and brutal tools of war. Now they had to shape tiny gears with terrifying accuracy. A minotaur blacksmith roared that his hammer was not made for fingernail-sized teeth. A demon general smacked him and reminded him whose order this was. The demon king commanded it, and the great sage required it. Complain later, build now. So the rough craftsmen packed their tools and marched toward the capital. Meanwhile, Ren worked alone over the glowing silk. He decided Ashley needed more than work robes and mining dust. A demon king who carried an entire race deserved a cloak worthy of that burden. He imagined pure white snow, fleece light as breath and warm as shelter. The ant silk passed through the spinning machine with a crisp, clacking rhythm. Threads untangled, twisted, strengthened, and gathered into even yarn. The loom answered with wooden swishes, shuttle flying between warp and weft. Ren moved like a man weaving both cloth and apology. He thought of Ashley eating plain soup beside starving subjects. He thought of her building greenhouses until her face lit with hope. He thought of her collapsing after mining for the future he had promised. The fabric shimmered under sunlight like early winter snow. It weighed almost nothing yet. Warmth spread through his hands. Ren named it Snow Fleece. Then he cut, folded, measured, and shaped it into a cloak. A high collar to block wind, a soft fall to suit her small frame, a clean white surface that would make black horns look like royal ink. He did not make it flashy. He made it dignified, practical, and impossible to ignore. While Ren worked, Cecilia returned with news of Gareth. The hero had reached the edge of the elven forest. Elf patrols mocked his jeweled armor and called him a greedy barbarian. Gareth shook with fury but could not swing his sword. Without the elves, he could not reach his destined archer. Ren laughed into his water cup. The proud hero was finally tasting the humiliation he served others. Ren had no time to obsess over one spoiled pawn of heaven. Every day Gareth lost in the forest was another day demons built. That mattered more than revenge. The factory walls rose higher. Greenhouses spread farther. The Insect Alliance began sending silk, eggs, and shells. Nick's hidden traders prepared to turn betrayal into commerce. Mephist managed letters, plans, craftsmen, merchants, and Ren's impossible schedule. Ashley worked until advisors begged her to rest. The demon realm no longer waited for winter like a sentence. It prepared for winter like a market. Ren watched all of it from the library window with tired eyes. The world still belonged to gods, heroes, nobles, and monsters. But beneath them, something quieter had begun to move. A machine did not need holy permission to spin. A greenhouse did not need divine blessing to sprout. A caravan did not need noble blood to change allegiance. A child did not need a prophecy to smile with food in her hands. Ren had once been beaten in a stable as a false sage. Now demon lords crossed territories because of his charcoal lines. He had no magic, no aura, no sword that cut mountains. His power was memory, stubbornness, and the refusal to call useful things trash. The church had burned his inventions once. This time he would spread them too widely to burn. Every loom would be a quiet insult to heaven. Every potato field would be a punch against holy starvation. Every silk cloak would prove that demon hands could create beauty. When Ashley finally received the snow fleece cloak, she said nothing at first. Her small fingers brushed the fabric as if touching falling snow. The cloak settled over her shoulders, light, warm, and bright against her black horns. For the first time, she looked less like a child buried under a crown, and more like the ruler Caesar had hoped would stand after him. Ren told her it was only the first gift. Food cloth trade factories and knowledge would follow. Ashley looked toward the red wasteland where green domes now glimmered. Her voice was soft, but it carried the weight of a kingdom. Then let us build a future our dead can finally rest inside. Ren nodded, because that was the promise he had been making all along. Not to gods, not to heroes, not to the humans who threw him away, but to every hungry child, every tired worker, and every forgotten king. Gareth could chase destiny through forests and temples. The church could polish lies until they shone like holy light. The nobles could keep laughing at common wisdom from their warm halls. Ren would answer them with harvests, machines, markets, and smoke from factory chimneys. The holy war had not ended. The goddess had not fallen. The hero had not yet reached the demon king's door. But the old story had already cracked, because the demons now had food in their bowls, warmth on their shoulders, allies in the shadows, and a sage who fought with ideas sharper than any blessed sword. So when the first factory furnace glowed red against the winter dusk, Ren stood beside Ashley and watched sparks rise into the dark. He did not see a cursed wasteland anymore. He saw fields, workshops, roads, books, and children growing taller each season. The world had tried to bury him in mud and hay. Instead, it had handed him the perfect place to plant a revolution. And from that day forward, Ren stopped waiting for salvation. He began building it with his own two hands.